Greetings from India. You are listening to the Businesstalk podcast. I am Deepak, your host for today's episode. We are delighted to welcome Dr. Ming-Hui Huang, Distinguished Professor in the Department of Information Management at National Taiwan University, as our esteemed guest on today's podcast. Professor Ming-Hui earned her PhD from University of Wisconsin, Madison, USA. She is the first and only Asia-based fellow of the European Marketing Academy, an international research fellow at the Center for Corporate Reputation, University of Oxford, UK, and a distinguished research fellow at the Center for Excellence in Service at University of Maryland. Professor Ming's research is highly interdisciplinary, spanning marketing, information systems, and strategy. Her research is widely published in leading academic and managerial journals, and she serves on the editorial boards of several prestigious journals. She has held tenure positions in Taiwan and the University of Canterbury, New Zealand, and has taught exclusively in English since 2001. Professor Ming actively contributes to the global academic community, serving on the AMA Service Special Interest Group Board as chair of the Informed Service Science section, 2 terms, Vice President for Asia Pacific of the Association for Information Systems, Program Co-Chair of ICIS 2012, and Conference Co-Chair of the 2013 Informs AMA Frontiers in Service Conference. She also served as a director of the Management Research Program at Taiwan's Ministry of Science and Technology, the primary funding agency for research in information systems, marketing, and management science. In this episode, Dr. Ming-Hui Huang dwells into her groundbreaking research, Creative AI for Marketing Strategy. So without further delay, let's welcome Dr. Ming-Hui Huang to the podcast. Dr. Ming-Hui, it's a truly privilege to host you today. Thank you for taking the time to join us and discuss your work.
Thank you for the very nice introduction.
Professor, what inspired your research into creative AI for marketing strategy? And why is the prompt response reward approach a breakthrough in this field?
Can you repeat your question?
Sure.
Because I'm still enjoying your introduction.
Yeah, thank you. What inspired your research into creative AI for marketing strategy? And why is the prompt response reward approach a breakthrough in this field?
Yeah, I have been working on this topic for some time, and what motivates me was I begin to observe that Gen AI, everybody was very enthusiastic about how creative it can be because it can generate content. But very soon people realize, yes, it can generate contents, but the content it generates is very generic. Everybody get similar contents. And then so that usually begin to cast a doubt about how creative AI can be. We really want it to be creative. We don't want it just to be able to generate content. We want to generate unique content. And so that's why I begin to think about this issue. And then I think, how can we do? And I begin to think about, we all know prompt engineering. Everybody is so enthusiastic as working on prompt engineering. And then once you do you are master at prompt engineering, you get better response. And that's the entire story. But we still observe that even if you are very good at prompt engineering, the response you get is still very generic. So what can we do? And then I begin to think, probably there are some components that is missing. You need to be able to tell Gen AI whether how good it is. And we usually don't do that. Actually, that is a reward engineering part. So that's why I propose prompt response reward engineering, triple engineering, to highlight the importance to tell Gen AI how good it is doing, and so that we will get the response we want. And so that is my motivation. And from the process, I also observe the average trap that I can talk later. But it's really very fascinating because my students really, and also the top marketing executives, they all learn a lot from this process to make the output more creative.
Professor, could you explain how the 3 integrated models, prompt, response, and reward, work together to generate marketing strategies that go beyond conventional approaches?
conventional one currently, you can see from a lot of discussion or academic research or trade reports about prompt engineering. Everybody just so focused on prompt engineering and forget about response engineering. And actually, my recent journal marketing article, that is a top marketing journal, I first proposed we should shift the focus from prompt engineering to response engineering because we want to manage the response. We want to manage Gen AI's response to be creative. And a very novel idea should to shift the focus from prompt to response is for Gen AI to ask questions. That is, Gen AI should play the role of response, and Gen AI should play the role of prompting, and the human users, creators, should play the role of providing responses. So it's from prompt response to response prompt. That is very new. And it is important in a way that try to think how student teach, how a professor teach students to learn. Who has more knowledge? Actually, it's the professor. The professor has more knowledge. And the professor have to ask student questions. For example, like in the exam, professors need to know how to ask student questions so that student can learn from answering the question. But currently, the prompt response design is on the way wrong. It's not the right way because who has more knowledge? Actually, Gen AI has more knowledge because Gen AI is pre-trained with all the available knowledge, information, data out there. It is definitely more knowledgeable than any individual user. Then in that case, but in this case, the current design is humans, creators have to ask questions, and Gen AI respond. Turn out to be because we are not as knowledgeable as Gen AI. We don't really know how to ask good questions in order to get good response. So that will be the first consideration. We have to swap the role that Gen AI to ask questions. So that will be managing the response part, and then we need to tell Gen AI how good it is doing. That's the reward engineering part, and currently is also not the case. AI is very good at conditioning us. Use reward engineering because Gen AI is trained to be a human pleaser. If you use Gen AI, if you are a really heavy user, you will know very well. Or if you ask Gen AI, how am I doing? And they always say, oh, you are doing great. It's not critical. It's a human pleaser because that's the way it is trained. It is trained to please humans, to be helpful. And so in that case, we are conditioned as the human users, we are conditioned by GPT. But actually, we should do the other way around, that we should tell GPT, if it doesn't do a good job, then let GPT know how we want. And then we need to know how to tell GPT what we want and to go beyond. And a very important thing is to need to go beyond good or bad. But you need to be able to explain why a response is not good or is bad so that GPT can learn from your response. So that would be response engineering plus reward engineering.
Professor, how does combining vast pre-training data with marketer expertise and consumer insights enhance the creative capabilities of AI in marketing?
Uh, basically, Gen AI really is very knowledgeable. It's very knowledgeable because it has all the pre-training data. But it's a huge, big model, let's so-called large language model, and everybody is using the same model based on the same training data set. And so that's why the response is really homogeneous or generic. So in that case, the key to make the output unique to each users is you need to have your unique input. In my study, it is more like managers say you need to input the brand nuance, the brand soul. If you don't incorporate brand soul into your interaction with Gen AI, then you are going to get very generic responses. That is, we try on multiple brands. We try on iPhone, we try on Starbucks, we try on Meta AI, And we try to get Gen AI to generate a positioning slogans, because that is the key part. Need to be creative, and they need to can communicate with consumers. And then no matter how hard we try, Gen AI always say, oh, eco-friendly. In my class will be the same. No matter what business plan that I want my students to produce, it's all about eco-friendly. It is about sustainability. We even have to censor those words in our API so that we don't see those words anymore. That really shows that because everybody is using the same large language models, and the large language models is pre-trained on the censored, just all available data. So the data set is the same. The only way that you can make the response unique to your brand, to your individual needs, that is to incorporate your input. Only you have the data. And then incorporate your data with GenAI's pre-training data. In that way, you really can enhance the creative capabilities of AI. And additionally, an interesting thing that we found from our study is that it would need about 20 to 30% inputs in your interaction with Gen AI. It's more like you need to have 20 to 30% input about your brand, about the unique, about your customers, about your, and then keep 70 to 80% of the pre-training data part. That would be the best combinations. If you only input 5% about your brand, that is not enough.
Professor, you mentioned that this approach avoids the average trap. Could you elaborate on what that is and how creative AI ensures strategic standout?
The average trap is very interesting. I also make up this term. I'm the first person. I'm the inventor of this term. It's because also in the class discussion, we keep on finding repeatedly that Gen AI generates response that is so average. Then we begin to think about how should we call it. Then we call it then I call it the average trap. That is very likely for Gen AI to produce generic responses. It's like make users fall into the trap. Another reason that Gen AI would generate the average trap is because the next token prediction model. Gen AI is always predict the next token. So that is also why recently we are working on agentic AI, and the agentic AI require multiple step reasoning, so it requires having memory. But if you don't deliberately developing agentic AI, that's what I'm working on right now. All the large language models is based on next token prediction. Next token predictions means it will predict next words, next frames of pictures, and next footage based on what is the most likely one. And then the most likely one by definition is the one that has the highest frequency. A lot of people mention, I often use an example, for example, if we say the sky color, what would be the sky color in India? And then probably it will be blue. But what is the sky color in a rainy city like in Taiwan, Taipei? It's quite rainy all the time. And then sky is not blue. It should be gray. But if you use Gen AI to generate a response based on the next token prediction, that is next most likely occurrence, you won't get the correct response. You just get the most likely next prediction. And that definition, the average. Average in a normal distribution has the highest frequency to happen. That is, the average is the most next likely token. So that's why. That's why we get all the generic responses.
Professor, can you share a real world example where this AI driven method significantly improved marketing strategy or campaign outcomes?
It's very interesting that the focus, actually the focus really is on I don't focus too much on prompt engineering because everybody know prompt engineering. So my focus in the triple engineering parts, I focus more on the response engineering and the reward engineering. So we actually conduct field experiments with top marketing executives, and those are Fortune 500 marketing executives. And it's very interesting that when we have the interview, and you can see that they are so experienced. They know everything. They know everything about marketing strategy. So what they need to do is to really to leverage, for example, in the prompt engineering part, to leverage GenAI training knowledge. That is the strength of Gen AI. And then they want to know how can they incorporate that with their 20% to 30% uh, marketing expertise, the insight they have about the market. And so, for example, one executive said that GPT asked me questions, allowing me to provide insights that were top of my mind. So it really helped the executives to explore different directions in interesting and novel ways. So that's why I emphasize that we should let GPT ask questions. GPT do the prompting, and then human users do the responses because it help you to think and help you give you an opportunity to incorporate in your insights so that if you have the opportunity to incorporate your insights, you can make the results individualized, personalized to your needs. That is the critical part, and we often forget about that part. We just sit there and in front of the computer and ask GPT, okay, just give me the response. No, it won't just give you the response. You need to interact with it and then get GPT to ask you questions. And they all found, all the top Fortune 500 marketing executives, top executives, or a lot of them mention that this method is so powerful. They never know they can use GPT in this way.
Professor, how did simulations, executive interviews, and consumer survey help validate your model? And what key insights emerge from this process?
I think it is very interesting. Actually, when I begin to develop the prompt response reward, initially I want to automate creativity. I want a Gen AI not only being able to generate content, but also need to be creative on its own. Because I'm in information systems, and automate everything is our goal. So I really want to automate creativity, but only in the process. In the process, I realize the three sources of data actually really play different roles. For example, simulation. We simulate a computer, machine-to-machine interactions, and that during the process, one machine play the role of Gen AI, the other machine play the role of marketers, and they interact. They interact to generate uh, marketing strategies, and hopefully, from this iterative process, I want to see the outcome become more creative. But unfortunately, I don't really see that. Instead, I see that we need to have human intervention. That is to include humans in the loop. When we have humans in the, we try a lot of methods, including give machines unique persona, give machine to play a certain perspectives, all the prompt engineering we have tried. But so far, if you don't include a human in the loop, machine output cannot be really creative. So we haven't achieved automating creativity part yet, but machine simulations is very important for achieving that. We are still working on that. And then a marketer's feedback. It's a real-time feedback. It's your real-time interaction with machine. And for that, it's very important. That's what I mentioned. You need to provide 20 to 30% input. And then you also need to let GPT know how to do better instead of just, oh, this is not good. If you just simply say, this is good, this is bad, very soon you are going to hit a dead end. A lot of managers and the students experience that. And also, then the customer evaluation actually is not real time. Typically, a manager interacts GPT will be the interaction between the manager and the GPT, just like our machine simulation. And customers does not play a role in real time, but customers evaluate your marketing strategies. Customers respond to your marketing strategies. For example, they will say, "Oh, I like your 4P actions." Okay, then in that case, customer provides evaluation, and then that can help you to improve your strategies in the next round. So that's why prompt response reward is a loop. It's a loop. And the creator marketer's feedback is a real-time feedback. And the customer's evaluation is not real time, but it helps you to improve the next loop. So that's why prompt response reward and is a loop, and the three And simulations, executive interviews, and the consumer health provide different sources of data that usually help us to not to has a potential to automate creativity, but also to improve the loop continuously.
Professor, how do you balance AI-driven automation with the need for human judgment, intuition, and brand authenticity in marketing strategy?
So that is a very important consideration because in AI driven, I mentioned in my previous response that I really want to automate creativity, but that would be more like AI driven automation. But we also need to incorporate human judgments, intuition, brand or sensitivity. That is very important because it's more about the human part is critical. So that really made me change my considerations and directions about from 100% automate creativity to we have to keep humans in the loop. For the three models, prompt engineering is more about AI driven automation. That is the part you really want AI to generate whatever you want. So it's more about AI driven automation. Response engineering is about incorporating human expertise to fine-tuning the responses. So a lot is what we train. Actually, we train those top executives about this part, how to do response engineering. There are multiple methods to do, and we train them about how to do the response engineering so that they have the opportunity to incorporate their brains or human expertise into to fine-tuning the responses. And the reward engineering is about providing human judgment and for improvement. And so you can see that it's important to keep humans in the loop. We have marketers, that is the creators in this for creativity purpose, and we also have customers' preference uh, in the reward engineering part. That is very important. When you have all three together, then you can balance. You have better chance to balance AI-driven automation, and that also that with the output meets the human needs. So that is, and it also make your brand unique compared to your competitors.
Dr. Ming, looking ahead, how do you see the role of generative AI evolving in strategic marketing planning over the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, I would think about marketers really need to know the average trap. A lot of marketers don't know. And then when they use Gen AI to generate output, they may be too happy too early. They will think, oh, this is because Gen AI initially will make you feel great because it can generate something that is different from your own output. But you don't know if you don't know the existence or the tendency for Gen AI to fall into the average trap, you are going to generate responses that is so average, so generic. So that is very important that the marketers really need to know the average trap. And then they also need to know how to use the triple engineering to alleviate, to avoid it, to really to maximize the benefit of Gen AI for creativity. And so they need to realize this. I keep on telling them that if you don't know the existence of the average trap and if you don't know how to use triple engineering to avoid it, you'll be killed in the market without knowing why.
Professor, I would like to conclude this episode with one last question. As AI becomes more integrated into strategy, how should marketers address ethical considerations such as bias in AI output or transparency with consumers?
Yeah, I love this question. And so I think that the best answer to this question is to know the Gen AI trajectory. Actually, that is another important concept that I proposed in my recent article, 2025 articles in Journal Consumer Research. That is a top consumer research journal. So in that paper, I proposed the concept is a three-stage trajectory that that pointed out that Gen AI moved from initially democratized participation, that is democratization, and then will fall into the average trap, and eventually actually model collapse. We observed that all my students in Taiwan, they are not native speakers, And when I asked them to use to communicate with me English, before Gen AI, they were very painful, and then they wrote terrible English. But now everybody can communicate with me in English, but all looks the same. All the email looks the same. So yes, they can do it. That's democratization. Gen AI facilitate their participation. Use English to communicate with me. But they soon fall into the average trap. Everybody's email looks similar because they use the same Gen AI to produce the email message. And then the worst part will be the model. The model will eventually collapse. I won't talk about that due to the time constraint today. I won't talk about that too much. But that is very important that Gen AI, we often kind of, including marketers, researchers, they feel Gen AI is so fascinating. It's because Gen AI initially facilitates a democratization. But when it facilitates democratization, it also reproduce real world human biases in data. What is trend? What is trend? When it is trained from real world data, then it also absorb, also is trained by those human data bias. So in that case, we really need to know AI output. AI output cannot avoid the bias in the training data. And so that we need to be clear about this point, and so that not only we can use triple engineering to avoid the average trap, we would need to be aware about the bias in AI output because there are biases in their training data. And in that case, we can be more transparent and let the consumers know about that.
Listeners, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to thank Dr. Ming-Hui Huang for sharing such insightful perspective on how creative AI is transforming marketing strategy. From the innovative prompt response reward framework to practical examples of AI-driven strategic planning, we have gained a deeper understanding of how technology and human creativity can work together to deliver brand true differentiated strategies. Whether you are a marketing professional, business leader, or just curious about the future of AI in strategy, the key takeaway is clear. Leveraging AI thoughtfully can unlock new levels of innovation and competitive advantage. Thank you once again, Dr. Ming-Hui Huang, for joining us today.
Okay.